All right, I'm throwing something up on Insta.
Okay. Oh, I never sent you the Bitmoji thing. Did you want that first?
That we can do that later.
Okay.
That is pretty quick.
Hmm.
Dude, I've been changing my Insta name so much because I'm trying to find one that I like, but like I have such a common name, and there's just like nothing good. All right, here we go.
Oh, are you in your room right now, or is
Oh,
this the?
yeah, I am in my room. Did I go live? I think I did go live.
I like the setup. It's wild.
All right. Um, yeah. So first little podcast episode here.
Here we go. Here
Let's
we
start it
go.
off. Let's just get right in. I know you have a little bit of a time commitment later, so let's
Yeah, no
start
worries.
it off by talking about NFL kind of pretenders, contenders. I don't know. I didn't watch a ton of the games on the weekend, so
All right.
tell me like what are you thinking right now?
Yeah, so the Chiefs and Bucks both won, and they were both like good
Yeah,
games. Bucks beat the Cowboys first night of season. Chiefs beat the Browns, so they both look filthy. Like the
yeah,
Buccaneers. The thing I can't get over is that they had all 22 of their starters from last year return. It's like
yeah.
you never see that in sport,
No,
like, and especially with a team that big, and
right.
it's like 22 good starters. Like they got a lot of names.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean that team was stacked last year.
it's literally ridiculous. Like if you think about if all those players are in their prime, like it
Yeah, true.
ridiculous. Like if Antonio Brown and Gronk were in their prime, were
Oh my
like
gosh, yeah,
sort of like the arguably third and fourth options on this team
yeah.
for
I
passing.
picked
So
up AB in fantasy just in case he has like a great
like
because Brady loves him.
he does. He loves him. And this is the thing, Gronk too. Like
Yeah,
last year, Gronk wasn't he wasn't like that good. It's not the Gronk that you're used to with the Pats like
yeah. He needed to
5 years
find
ago.
himself again.
Yeah, but then it's like he had 2 touchdowns this week.
Yeah.
So who know? It could just be like he had a good game and he won't be crazy. But it's like if Gronk
I
is
mean, he's
playing,
gonna be a red zone target for sure.
yeah, like if Gronk is Gronk, plus they have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown,
Ugh.
plus Fournette. Like I don't know, they're
Plus, like a sick defense.
yeah, yeah.
That's the
They
thing.
have
It's like it's not just the offense with them.
yeah, no, they have Shaq Barrett, who's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Devin White, who's a stud, is like a linebacker. Their secondary salt, like it's crazy. You saw like we saw what they did in the Super Bowl last year, where
Yeah,
they
all
like
playoffs. They
that
shut people down. Like
that
the defense won them that championship in the playoffs. Like they came to play.
yeah, and no one has ever shut down the Chiefs like that front seven
Yeah,
did. It's like the
yeah.
pressure was just too much, and it was crazy. So it lost that game. They had a muffed punt where their punter dropped a snap at the end,
Hmm.
and they were up at that point, and then the Chiefs took it and scored a touchdown off of it because Browns were way backed up,
Yeah.
and it was like an 80-yard touchdown they gave up to Tyreek Hill, where it was literally just like it was one of those classic plays where Mahomes out of the pocket, Tyreek is like way downfield, not open, but Mahomes just throws a bomb, and
Yeah.
the defender just played it horribly. So like it was behind Tyreek, he stopped, and the defender just kept running and didn't look for the ball. So it's
Mm.
like because of that they scored a touchdown. So there were just a couple like little adjustments if they made those two plays, like the punt and that defensive play on that touchdown. If they play it a little differently, like that game could go a different direction. And
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that will get better.
yeah,
Like it's week one,
exactly.
right? And they're up against the Chiefs. Like that's a tough start. So I
Yeah,
feel like if they but the thing with the Browns is always like not always because I mean they're terrible, but like since they've been like kind of good, I feel like they're one of those teams that like plays really well against someone like the Chiefs and then will go play like I don't even know, like the Jets or
yeah,
someone, and
like
they
play
just
to their
like
competition.
stink for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
So
see.
that'll be interesting.
I
That'll be interesting to see how
yeah,
Baker does too, because he actually has good stats. If you actually like look at the stats, I've seen a couple things on like Twitter. It's just like good, and
he,
it's not like surprisingly good.
yeah. I honestly I like Baker. I think some people he was sort of weird where his first year he came on and it was right after they went 0-16, and his
Yeah,
first like he came in against this on like a Monday night or a Thursday night or something. Like their quarterback got hurt. He comes into the game halfway through and they win. and it was their first win in like I don't know, it was
Yeah.
like 2 years at that point or something. And so
Was that the one with? Was that they like? Was that they kicked it right at the end of regulation?
it might have been. I just remember it was like this crazy electric game against the Jets, and it
Yeah.
was close. So I can't
Hmm.
remember exactly what happened. But then it's you would have thought they won the Super Bowl. Like it was
Yeah.
just like a week 3 regular season game.
Oh yeah.
They won like I don't know, it was like 5 games that year, maybe 6 or something. So it's like they
Mhm.
still weren't good, but after you go 0-16 and 1-15 the year before, it was like they were the greatest thing ever.
Oh yeah.
And so I feel like people were hyped up on Baker after that, but then the next year it's like they didn't really improve and he didn't look
Hmm.
good. But then last year he looked solid, and Nick Chubb is filthy. Like he's one
Yeah.
of the best, just like pure runners in the league. Their O
Hmm.
line is solid. They have Kareem Hunt as their
Yeah. They got a
second.
good backfield.
Yeah, and then Odell's coming back this year. I don't really know what to make of that because he
It's
hasn't.
gonna be. I think with them, it's like because they have Odell, they have Jarvis. Like they have a lot of guys that it's like they're big names, but they actually have to like just perform. Like they're
I think
gonna
so.
be, they're gonna like they were on the Sports Illustrated cover when they all like signed or got
Yeah,
traded or whatever, and like they're gonna cause news and they're gonna get attention to Cleveland, but they just need to like focus on football because they're good players, but they just sometimes don't live
yeah,
up to like the hype that they cause themselves.
exactly. So
So
I'm believing. I think they have They have a chance to be really good this year. We'll see. Last year, what
yeah,
they lost in the divisional round. So it's
yeah. You think they'll get back again, back to the playoffs?
I think they should. I think they
Yeah.
definitely
I
should.
think that has to be an expectation now for
Yeah,
them.
yeah. With the talent they have,
Yeah.
there's no reason not to. They do have a tough division with the Steelers
Yeah.
and the Ravens, but honestly, I think they have a really good shot at winning that division. If I had to
Hmm.
pick, I would probably say they win the
Yeah.
division as of right now.
I think the Steelers are trending the other way. I think the Browns are probably still trending upwards.
Yeah,
I think the Steelers are kind of
yeah.
waning off.
Steelers did look good this past week, though.
Yeah.
It's like so.
Bills. Was that they were playing the Bills?
Yeah, the Bills and the
Yeah.
Bills were probably. I think a lot of people would say they're the second best team in the AFC
Hmm.
coming in this season because
Yeah.
their offense was insane last year, especially
Because
down
yeah,
the
Josh
stretch.
Allen was like
Oh my gosh.
figuring it out at the end too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he put last year the jump he made was like crazy because he came into the league as this guy that has a ridiculous arm, like
Hmm.
can throw it 80 yards. It's just a rocket and looks effortless, but his
Yeah.
accuracy was bad. And
Right.
I saw him on a podcast where he talked about he did like a ton of stuff with his mechanics, like
Hmm.
using different technology to really just try to like get that right. And it
Yeah.
like he was a completely different player where he still had that strength and the zip, but all of a sudden like he was accurate. And so
Yeah.
what they did was crazy. But they looked horrible this past week.
Did that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't watch any of that, but I think I saw like I forget someone tweeted just like what is going on with the Bills?
Bro, the Steelers shut them down. Like
Okay.
really. So I think it'd be an overreaction to just go crazy
Yeah.
with that. Like I still think the Bills can be good. It's week 1,
Right.
but like the Steelers, they beat them. And it's sort of funny. Last year, like they were undefeated until what, like week
Yeah, like
12 or
quietly,
something.
very quietly undefeated. Like no
Yeah,
one was talking about
because
it.
I swear, it got to a point where their schedule was just ridiculously easy. Like they're playing
Yeah,
horrible
right.
teams and like
Yeah.
barely winning a lot of these games.
It was like the Pats a couple of years ago, where the Pats were like
Yeah, well,
killing like the
their
Jets and the Dolphins, and like
yeah,
everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like," and it's like, yeah, playing horrible
I know
teams.
that's the defense was like the best defense of all time for
Yeah,
those first like
yeah, they were
7
getting
weeks.
like the defense was putting up on average like 15 fantasy points.
Yeah, it
Like
was like
they were scoring
crazy.
more points than like running
Yeah,
backs.
shut out multiple teams. But then by the end of the season, like you forgot that happened because we started playing
Right.
like good offenses that were just killing us. So
Yeah.
um, the Steelers were the same way, and then they got destroyed in the playoffs by the Browns last year.
Hmm.
But you have to still, they're a good team. You have to
They're
respect
still
them.
there. Yeah.
The Ravens have a lot of tough injury situations, but
You think Lamar is legit? What do you think about Lamar?
that's a good question.
It's tough.
So I don't believe that you can win a Super Bowl with a quarterback that
Yeah.
is mainly a runner.
Uh-huh.
And he's probably the best running quarterback we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the best one since Vic. But at the end of the day, if you like look back to 2 years ago when they were like 14-2, I think
Yeah,
they
they got
were
the one
really like
seed.
crazy. Um,
He MVP that year?
yeah,
Is that yeah?
yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And so the thing with him was always like his record when losing at halftime was horrible. Well, I
Okay.
shouldn't say horrible, but I want to say it was like he was 0-3 or something. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
he was rarely losing at halftime, but then his
Yeah.
record when winning is really good. And so it always seemed like if they get up on teams so they can just run it as much as they want,
Yeah.
it's a
Okay.
really tough offense to stop. But if you have a defense that prepares for it and forces him to pass,
Mm-hmm.
then he's not that good. Like
Yeah.
he can throw okay when the team is loading up to stop the run. You throw in some play action. He just has a couple throws here and there.
Yeah.
Then
I got
guys
you.
are open and he'll hit those throws. But when he actually has to sit back and just be like a pocket passer, he's
Mm-hmm.
just not that good.
Yeah. He
And
can't
so
like dice him up really.
exactly. And so I feel like that's what we've seen the past couple of years. Like the Titans came out that year in the playoffs
Mm-hmm.
and they loaded up like athletic players on the defense to make sure that he couldn't run. And they got out on him early. And then it was like forced Lamar to pass and he didn't look good. And the team was just bad. And so the Titans
Yeah.
won. Last year, the Bills beat them in sort of it was like a bad weather playoff game, I think. So it was low
Right.
scoring. But
Right.
I just I don't think he can throw well enough to really win.
Mm-hmm.
They can consistently be a good regular season team,
Yeah.
but in the end, I just struggle to believe that they have enough to win a championship.
I don't know if you remember, but I think that playoff game against the Bills, didn't it come down to like they had the ball in the red zone and he needed to make a throw and he threw like a pick or something,
That
like right
sounds
at
like
the
it.
end of the game.
I want to say it was a close game the whole time.
Yeah.
So it
I
sounds
think
kind
he
of
had a
familiar.
chance to do it, but I think it was like he dropped back and just like
Yeah,
drilled the Bills guy right in the
yeah,
chest. And it was just like, what are you doing?
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think people get too hyped up on him because he makes some really impressive throws. He had a throw
Yeah.
this past Monday night against the Raiders. He had one that was I forget what point in the game, but like a dime, like deep
Mm,
downfield. So he hits them occasionally. It's not
yeah.
like he's not like Tim Tebow who
He's
really
a
just
highlight guy essentially.
yeah,
Like he makes highlight reel plays, but
yes,
it's you can't just rely on that
yeah,
in the long run,
yeah.
essentially.
But I like a lot of I like Lamar, like a lot of what I see it from him in his interviews. Like I like his sort of
Hmm.
attitude, his mindset. And so if he works at his throwing, like he might be
Yeah.
able to get to a place where it could work. But from what I've seen so
Right
far,
now, though, you don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah,
Yeah, I would probably agree. What do you think about the Titans? Because we just mentioned them, but
yeah.
like, because I think Vrabel's a really good coach,
I
and I
like
think
yeah.
they have like, I mean, they have a lot of good weapons now too.
Yeah. So that's what I would have said coming into this year in my mind. The Chiefs are obviously right there, but then I think the Bills,
Hmm.
Browns, and Titans, I would have said we're going to be really good. The Titans also got smacked this week and looked
Yeah,
really bad. Um, but I think that could just be some time. Like give Julio got
right.
traded there a
Yep.
little later, right? And so he hasn't had a ton of time. But I mean, you if you look at that offense, like you have Derrick Henry, who just had
Hmm.
one of the 10 best seasons ever by a running back, right? Like
Yep.
rushed for over 2,000 yards. You have,
And he's just a monster.
I mean, yeah, like look at the guy. I don't know how
Yeah.
I would, you never want to tackle him
You can't make a NFL defender like look like a child
the way he
and
does. Oh
and
my,
just like
yeah. Was
no
it?
one does that.
It was that playoff game against the Ravens 2 years ago. You remember he had a like stiff arm on Earl
Yeah.
Thomas that was
It
like
was just like,
viral. And
oh, oh.
Earl Thomas is like a
Yeah,
fantastic safety, like
right.
great player, and he just tosses him to like
It's
crazy.
oh.
And then you have AJ Brown, who is
Hmm.
base. He's literally just like DK Metcalf. Like the
Yeah,
fact that they went to the same college is crazy. That just like massive
right.
freak athlete. He's so fast. One of the best receivers in the league at like running after the catch. Like his
Hmm.
yards after catch numbers are right up there with anyone. Um, like he's just a monster. And then you have Julio, who for the last decade, most people would always say that he's top two receiver in the league or
He's probably
up there.
yeah, he's probably one of, if not the best receiver from that like 2010 to like 2020
Yes,
range.
right. So it's like you have both of them plus Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill is just like a really, really solid quarterback.
Yeah, he's like the opposite of Lamar almost. Like he's not going to do anything
Yes,
fancy, but
he
he's
literally
just
like
like simple.
no
Like
one wants to see his
make the
highlight
passes.
videos, but
Yeah.
his completion percentage is fantastic. He's not
Mhm.
throwing a lot of picks. Like the definition of like plays his role fantastic, like
Right.
fantastically. Like this team isn't built around a star quarterback, like say Bills or Chiefs, and they obviously have other
Mhm.
weapons, but it's just he sits there with the weapons he has and he makes the plays he needs to. So
Right.
I would expect them to be really good. Their defense is somewhat of a question mark, but I think
Mhm.
if that offense gels the way they could, like they looked really good last year offensively,
Yeah.
and then you add Julio to that mix, like
Yeah.
I think if they make it work, which they should, that offense will be scary.
Yeah. And I think that they're like I said, I think Vrabel's a good coach. And like obviously he played with
Yeah,
Belichick for
yeah,
a long time. So I
yeah,
think that if they just need to get to the playoffs, and then I think he's a guy that can like, I mean, you saw like they beat the Pats and they beat like, I think he can do little tricky things to just like get them the one win that they need
yeah,
when they need it in the
yeah,
playoffs.
yeah. And he seems to be a players coach. Like from what I've
Mm,
like, it seems like players love
yeah,
playing for him too, which is
yeah,
like
which
I
always
think
helps.
yeah, you can't underestimate how valuable that is. Like I think
Right.
so. I think they have a lot of potential there.
Hmm. And then I think the last thing I was kind of curious about, like you brought up the Cowboys earlier. What do you
Yeah,
think about the East? Because the NFC East is essentially like it's it's kind of just all the worst teams
bro.
in order. And but I think the Eagles have a chance to be decent this year because I think they've got good like young pieces. I think that they have not like no pressure on them. So I
Yeah,
think that if they can just like have fun and whatnot, they might surprise people. I'm not saying like 10, 11 win, maybe
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
9 win season or
Right.
something. But like I think that they could be. I think the NFC East could be better than people think. And obviously like Dak's back now, so Cowboys might be
Yeah,
in the mix. CD Lamb will probably be more because he was really good at the end of last season
yeah,
without Dak. So
yeah,
I don't know. What do you think about the East?
yeah. I mean, the past few years they've just been horrible,
It's
like
terrible.
so
It's
bad.
terrible.
Um, I don't believe in the Giants. I know some
No.
people are somewhat like they could be good. I just don't think so.
Are they
They
0
had
and 2 now?
what?
Are they or 1 and 1?
0-2. I know they lost on
They
Thursday.
lost this week. I
Yeah,
don't remember what happened first week.
I can't remember, but I think they lost.
Redskins are 1 and 1. Or football team
Yeah, the
is 1
football
and
team.
1. Yeah. Oh
I
my
think they're keeping
gosh.
that name, by the way, which is funny.
You think so?
I heard something that like they like it, and so they're sticking with it. Because I mean,
I mean,
look at what the Indians did. They changed their like
yeah.
that. Now they're the Guardians. This team they
Yeah.
can't. But
I know. I
but
was saying it would be funny if like before they change it, they somehow go like miraculously win a Super
I
Bowl.
know.
So
And
then when
then
you're just going back like
it's the
in
football
10
team.
years, it's just like Washington football team.
Yeah, which would be amazing. Don't
Yeah.
think it's gonna happen.
No.
But like Washington, low key could be a solid team. Their quarterback situation is a little,
Yeah.
but like Taylor Heineke looked really good in the playoff game last year. You remember that when they almost beat the
Mm-hmm.
Bucks in the wild
Yeah.
card round? So it's I don't know. And they had Fitzpatrick who got hurt, but I feel like
Right. I think they're probably still a couple of years away.
yeah, I don't know.
If
And then
I don't know.
the Eagles is tough. I would have said that they were going to be bad this year. Like they just,
Hmm.
I don't know. They don't have any like veteran receivers that are good. They just
Right.
drafted Devontae Smith, who could be
Hmm.
really good.
Yeah.
People have doubts about his size, but I don't know how good Hurts is at quarterback, but
Yeah.
they dominated the Falcons on Sunday.
Yeah. I think the thing for them
Granted,
is like you could see like they don't have a lot of veterans, like you said, but
yeah,
sometimes that can eat like if you just get a bunch of young guys, like they might work well together because
yeah,
they're all right out of college, they're all like doing the same stuff.
yeah.
So
We'll see.
I don't know. The East is gonna be like
Yeah, I for one, the Cowboys were really bad last year, but I think they
Hmm.
can be good with Dak back. And their
Yeah.
receiving group is really good. Like Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and
Hmm.
Michael Gallup is good. He got
Yeah.
hurt last week. I have to look. I don't know if it's something long term because he came out of that game like halfway through,
Yeah.
but they're really good. People for like I feel like people sleep on the fact that last year before Dak got hurt, he was on
Yeah.
pace to absolutely
That's
demolish
a
the yards record.
that's a big loss.
He
Like,
was on pace for over
especially to not
6,000.
have like they didn't have like someone ready to go in case you got like they
Oh yeah, no, they were.
Dak is their franchise
Yeah,
even more than Zeke probably. Like
yes,
they don't have a backup plan for him going down. So that was like as soon as he went down, the whole season is essentially a
yeah,
write off at that point.
yeah. And the other thing too is Zeke. I kind of question how good he is.
Hmm.
Like he did not look good on Thursday against the Bucks. He hasn't
Hmm.
really been like phenomenal the past year or so. And I sort of they when he came into the league, their offensive line was unreal.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
he came into the league like just like flying. Like that first
Right.
year, I want to say he definitely set the Cowboys rookie yards record or for a running back, something like that.
Yeah.
So he was really good early, but he doesn't look like he's in the greatest shape. But he
Hmm.
sort of always has been like that.
Right.
But
Yeah, he's always been a little chunkier.
I don't know how good he really is. Like I don't
Yeah.
know that I would say he's a top 5 back in the league. Um,
Yeah.
but
But I mean, he could prove us wrong.
yeah,
Like he
I
could.
mean, what do I know?
It
I
all
haven't.
depend, right?
Yeah, but
You never know.
I think Dak's a really good quarterback. Their receiving group is good. So
Hmm.
I would have them winning the division right now. I sort
Yeah.
of like their chances. They looked pretty solid against the Buccaneers. They made some plays to sort of shoot themselves in the foot, but like so did the
Yeah.
Buccaneers. Like it was sort of that type of game.
Hmm.
But they were right there to win it. They took the lead with a minute and a half left, and then
Yeah.
Brady, the offense went down, and but
Right.
I think the Cowboys probably are my favorites in that division.
Yeah. Which is not saying a lot.
It's
Like
not. It is
it's
not.
not a it we're just saying that they're the best of the worst essentially.
Yeah, 100%.
All
So
right.
we'll
Let's
see.
talk about let's talk a little bit about college football now.
All right.
I know I think we're probably both like we kind of pay attention when it gets big, I would
Yeah.
say. But
Yeah.
something so they had this right so Ohio State played Oregon last week
Okay.
and lost. Ohio State was 3, Oregon was 12 I think at the time,
Okay.
and Oregon won,
Yeah.
which essentially means now it's week 3 now. That was week 2.
Yeah.
Ohio State's season is pretty much over already
I mean,
because of like the format of things.
teams can make it with one loss though.
They can, but it's tough. I think.
It is. But if they go out and they dominate the rest of the season, like and
Yeah.
dominate, like
Yeah.
there's a
They
good
have.
chance
I mean,
they can
I guess
make
it's not over, but
it is
it's
true. Like
a long shot now.
you
I would
lose
say.
you lose the first game of the season and it feels like
Yeah.
all right, it's gonna be tough.
And I do. So obviously, it used to be like with the BCS, it was just top 2 play for the title. Now there's the whole playoff, but I think it will end up going to like an 8-team playoff
Yeah.
just because the way that like the US sports market is set up, attaching that title to like a game will just boost the ratings. At the end of the day, like that's what's going to drive the decision. Is if they can get more people, more eyes on a game,
Right.
they're going to do it. So I think we are going to see 8 teams, but for me personally, I kind of liked when it was just purely rankings, and I mean it's college sports at the end of the day, like, and it might be different now that they have the whole like NIL and there's more money attached
True.
with it and stuff, but it was kind of a cool like system for me of like, okay, you're fighting to be like 1 and 2, and like because the thing is, even with the 4 teams, like it doesn't change it that much. Like we still see like the 4 play the 1, and it's like that game really shouldn't have even been played.
Mm.
Like it's just such a blowout.
Yeah.
And you're still in a situation where like one loss can end your season. So I don't know. What do you
Yeah,
think?
it's tough because it's just such a weird sort of
Yeah.
animal, college football, where you have
Hmm.
so many teams,
Yeah.
and so it's like it's always so tough. Like right now with those four teams that make it, like there's always so much debate over like whatever
Hmm.
that fifth team is.
Yeah.
Like you can always argue that they deserved it or sixth or whatever. And so it's hard when they play so many of these games that aren't against the same opponents, right? Like
Yeah. True.
you look at like Bama or Clemson, it's like the majority of their games they're winning by like 40 or 50 or something against random teams. And there's
Hmm.
like a handful of games that are against
Right. You have like your
solid opponents.
LSU and your,
And so it's just I I wish there was a way to do it where it's like the best teams are consistently playing each other.
yeah.
Um, because it's sort of like the American sports where we like playoffs, we like a bunch of teams make it and then a bunch of those sudden death games
Hmm.
versus, other sports where they have like the Premier League and soccer has a
Right.
table, but it's sort of college football doesn't really have either. It's this
Yeah. You
weird,
can't do a table for college football because it's not, you can't play all the same
right? It's
opponents.
just not possible. And so because of that, I kind of think I like there being the playoff. So
Hmm.
it's if you win the national championship, you had to win a couple games
Hmm.
against the other teams that were ranked higher. Like
Yeah.
you didn't simply get there because you were voted by a bunch of people, right? And so
Right.
it's tough, but it is fair. Like there's normally a couple teams that are just dominant. Like Alabama has just been
Yeah.
filthy, or Clemson. Like Trevor
Yeah.
Lawrence last week lost his first regular season game
Hmm.
ever. Like he never
Yeah.
lost a regular season game in high school or college with Clemson.
Right.
And he was there a few years. Like so their teams are just dominant. So it's just sort of tough. But I don't know if I want to see 8 playoff teams,
Yeah.
but I think I like the college football playoff they have now better than simply just top 2 ranked teams.
Hmm. I think it will go to 8 eventually.
Yeah,
But
I
the
agree
other
with you.
problem is with that is like you to do that you either take away a regular season or you tack on another week. Like there at that point you have to kind of just keep stretching the season out, and I don't think it's gonna fit. Like at that point it'll be oh, who's gonna get the eighth spot, and then the ninth place team will be like UCF or someone, and they'll be like, oh, we should have been in it. And
Right,
it's like
right,
I don't know that they'll ever get rid of that unless they go away from just like the conference play, because I
right.
think that's where it gets. Or like I hated the idea of like the Super League in soccer,
Yeah,
but I almost think you need something like that for college football where it's like throw Bama and throw Clemson. Like Clemson being in the ACC is always so tough because like they really don't play anyone right now.
no,
Like
yeah,
Florida State has had some good years, but not really since the playoff has come in.
right,
It's like Clemson's playing, like Duke in the ACC championship and they're winning by 40 or whatever. It's
right,
like tough to evaluate that
yeah. And the
against
SEC is
Bama
pretty
playing in the
stacked.
SEC.
Yeah,
And now like Texas and Oklahoma are coming in the
right,
SEC,
right,
so the Big 12 is going to be watered down even more. It's like I feel like they just need more of those games of like Ohio State and Oregon to kind of like weed out who the good teams are a little
right,
bit,
right,
and that will also incentivize if a team like UCF wants to get in, it'll make it more clear like you need to play certain like strength of opponents
hmm,
to get in.
yeah,
Because I think now part of the problem is that a team like UCF can look at like even like an Alabama schedule and be like, well, they only played 3 good teams, and
hmm,
we played like I don't know who they even play, but like they right now can't look at like an Alabama schedule and be like, okay, yeah, they played 8 good teams and won, so
hmm,
they deserve it more than us
right,
because they're both not always playing good teams.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's tough, but it just and like you said with like I don't know how you really fix that because for
yeah,
them to blow up the conferences and switch it around like that would be like a massive deal,
yeah,
and it's just sort of tough. But I agree
yeah,
with you. Like I think it would make it better, and that's sort of like that LSU team that won. Was that 2 years ago? 3 years
Mhm.
ago?
Boro, yeah, it would
Yeah,
have been
Burrow's last year.
2019
Yeah,
maybe.
because this is his second year in the NFL, so it was
Yeah.
that a few years ago. But that team, part of what made it like so good was the fact, I forget the numbers, but the number of like top teams they beat. Like I want
Yeah.
to say they beat like three top 10 ranked teams and a few like more multiple ranked teams like on top of that. So it was like
Hmm.
for whatever reason the way it stacked up, like they actually played good competition
Yeah.
and they dominated and like were still phenomenal. So you
Right.
can look at that team and be like, okay, no, they actually were that crazy good. But so many of these other teams that will do it where it's like, okay, who did they
Yeah.
play? Really?
But I will say, like, this is gonna be kind of hypocritical based on what I just said, but I do still like there's something cool about like getting a team like Clemson because I think they beat that was LSU Clemson that championship, right?
Yeah.
Like it's I think it's cool when you get like an SEC team and an ACC team, in the championship, and it's like, oh, these guys aren't gonna play each other, but like let's see how they match up. Like they're the
Yeah.
two, they've both been killing people. Let's see how they play against. Like there's something cool about that too.
Yeah.
So I don't
There
know.
there
At the end
is,
of the
but it
day, it's
just
not going anywhere. Like the
yeah.
conferences aren't going anywhere.
Right.
The playoffs probably going to get expanded, but I
Yeah.
think it is interesting to like
Yeah.
think about.
Um,
Um, all right, we can move on to the World Cup debate,
mm,
and this I think will be interesting
yeah.
because we have very different kind of viewing levels, I would say, on World Cups.
Yeah.
Because
I
like just on soccer in general, I
yeah,
would
that's
say.
what I was because I normally watch a good amount of the big
Right.
tournaments like that, like World Cup. This year with
Hmm.
the Euros, I really didn't watch much, but I normally would watch a good amount, but
Yeah.
outside I'm very much
That's where it changes.
I'm
It's like
I'm the
you
definition of like a
you
veteran.
like kind of come in for the World Cup, whereas I'm already sitting in the room kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. That's what I
So
like.
for you, like being someone that would like come to watch the big tournaments, what do you think about this whole like every 2 years there would be a World Cup? Would you like that? Or because for me, it's and I think for a lot of people, it's like part of what makes the World Cup so special is that it's every 4 years. And like as a player, like obviously I'm not a player, but I think a lot of that like losing at the World Cup means so much, and winning at the World Cup means so much because it's every 4 years. So
Yeah.
like this, I guess it's a podcast. It's basically just guys talking about stuff. They were saying like you can have a player like a player with a very short prime can go through their whole prime between a World Cup.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's kind of like cool. That's something that's cool about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think? Where are you coming from as someone who just
Yeah.
who comes in more for like the big tournaments?
Honestly, I think I like the way it's set up now.
Hmm.
Like there's something that's just special about it being every 4 years. Um, and the other thing with it too is it's not like there's no tournaments in between there. Like you have the
Right.
Euros, right? Like which is a big tournament in its own
Right.
right. The Women's World Cup is always the year after the men's, right?
Yep.
And so it's like there's always tournaments and stuff that don't overlap.
Hmm.
Um, and I think just the way it is pretty cool and special right now. Um, and like the fact that a player can go through their prime pretty much in between World Cups, like that's kind of wild. And it's also like I don't think you should that should be like oh then make there more World Cups so you can see those players like
Hmm.
that's part of the beauty of it and too and then those players that have the longevity to play in multiple World Cups
Yeah.
you can appreciate it more like the Messis and Ronaldos and there's a
Hmm.
bunch of players right that have played in a solid handful of World Cups
Yeah.
where it's like it's
And I think there's
crazy.
something cool about like the team changing every
Yeah,
World Cup because you
yeah,
can look and be like, okay, well, like put side by side, um, like the 2014 and 2018 like England team and see like how much it's changed, like
Hmm.
because especially like country like England where they have like this big influx of youth talent, like that the 2018 team is so drastically different
Yeah.
that like that's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think like I was wondering if you would say that because also like I feel like part of what pulls someone like you in is that it's every 4 years. So when it
Mhm.
comes around, it's like this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was every 2 years, you might not necessarily tune
Yeah.
in for as many games because you know there's just going to be another one in 2 years. Whereas if
Yeah.
there's, you know, you miss the 2018 World Cup final, like you have to wait 4 years to see another final.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty cool. Like just the way professional soccer is set up is so different from anything we have
Hmm.
in, all these American sports. Really,
Yeah.
because American sports is just sort of like if you want to see basketball, like you're gonna watch the NBA. Like it's not
Right.
like there's a bunch of countries that have talent that can compete.
Right.
Like any other country could start a league if they wanted to, and it would not even be close to what the NBA
Yeah.
is. Obviously, no
Exactly.
one plays football like the NFL. And then even though America's not the only country with hockey or even baseball, it's still like this
Hmm.
is the league. Like the NHL,
Right.
MLB, they are the leagues. Um,
Right.
whereas soccer, it's such a global game where it's
Hmm.
everywhere outside of America, right? Like soccer is like
Yeah.
the sport or right up there as the sport. And so
Yeah.
that's why you have all the different leagues that are cool, plus like the international like it's just structured so differently that I
Hmm.
think it just works really well how it is. It makes the World Cup really special. Plus you have
Yeah.
those yearly competitions where you get to see the clubs and Champions League, you get to like it just works really well the way it is. And I
Yeah.
think it makes like the international country competitions, like there's no other international competition that's big that happens consistently in any other
Right.
sport, right? Like
Right.
Olympics, it's spread out like
Yeah.
every other, like FIBA, the basketball tournaments are always spread out. Like it's just sort of the way international sports work. And I think that's part of what makes it special. It it's a bigger deal for if you get to play for your
Hmm.
country, like you have
Yeah.
a new chance every 4 years. Like it's just I think the way it's set up makes it a really special, amazing event that if you change it, it would start to take away from it.
Yeah. And I think if you have it every 2 years, there's also a much higher chance of someone not going by choice.
Yeah.
Whereas like you have people now like that, you know, they might be slightly injured or something, but like they'll push through it for the World Cup because it's the World Cup.
Mm.
And it's like they don't know if they're going to get a
Another
chance to
yeah.
play again in 4 years or if they're going to get passed by in 4 years. So like if you have it every 2 years, you might get people being like, I'm not going to go this year. I'll get ready for the one in 2 years. And
Yeah.
then I think again, it takes a little bit of like the specialness and just like the magic away from it. Like I'll go back and watch like, you know, it'll be like 2 World Cups ago, but that's already like almost 8 years now.
Yeah.
Like
So
it's a
we
long
were what,
time ago, and
freshmen
it's
in high school
yeah,
at that point? Like
yeah, not like
crazy.
yeah, I think we were going into freshman year, so it's
Okay.
just like crazy to go back and watch, and you're like, oh man, like it takes you back a
Yeah.
little bit, as opposed to like 2 years ago. It's kind of, I mean, right now, 2 years ago would take you back because of everything that happened in the last 2 years, but like
Granted. But yeah, otherwise.
typically, and I think the way that it would have worked out if they do it every 2 years is that you essentially would have like World Cup, Euros, World Cup, a break year, World Cup, Euros. Like there would just be so much going on, and for some people, I think that's great. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It would just be
Yeah.
like a lot. I think.
And would they and then you have to also like the women's World Cup is
Right.
pretty like a lot of people pay attention and watch that and like it's
Yeah.
sort of funny how America has a good women's national team. Like
Yeah.
would that then have to be every 2 years too?
True. That's a good
Because
point.
then that messes things up too with how you're going to do the
Yeah.
Euros and stuff like that.
Yeah. Because it is nice now how like it does make the Women's World Cup more watched, I think,
Yeah.
having it in a year where there's not really much going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the next one will be 2023.
Yeah.
So, and it's nice because, you know, you have Euro supposed to be 2020. Then this year would have been like like there would have been some smaller tournaments and stuff, I think, but mostly an off year. Then World Cup next winter, I guess, and then Women's World Cup. Like it's a nice progression, I think.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
But, all right, I think we've covered all we need to say about that one.
Yeah.
Last topic here for today is the MLB Awards, and specifically, I think the most interesting one to talk about is the AL MVP, because there are some people saying that if Vlad Jr. doesn't win it, he'll be getting robbed, stuff like that.
Really?
I know, like my idol Manny Ramirez said that, like he was like, if they're trying to like rob him of an MVP, and I don't know, it's like I know we've talked about it before, but I'm a big proponent of like that MVP should be given to the most valuable player, and in that sense, like if the Blue Jays get in the playoffs with Vlad Jr. has like 46 home runs now, like to me that's like the best case. Like he probably should get it based on like the literal definition.
Yeah.
But like there's a guy doing something that has never, like no one's ever done it at the level that Shohei Ohtani's doing what he's doing right now. So I just don't see a world in which like you don't give it to him, because like if you don't give it to Ohtani, then like no one else deserves it ever. Like I don't know. He's like,
so it's this classic conversation that I know you and I have had some of the times where it's like, what really is the MVP? Like, is it legitimate, like most valuable player to their team, or is it just like who's having the best season?
Right.
We've talked about like with the NBA, like if we're just being real, like LeBron would have, I don't know, 10 MVPs at this point if it was really just like most valuable. Like Russell Westbrook would not have won MVP, but because he had the coolest season, he averages a 30-point triple-double. Like you give it to him. And I just looked up numbers because I wasn't sure, but like Guerrero is leading the AL in home runs, hits, batting average.
He's on Triple Crown watch.
And is third in RBI.
Like he has a genuine chance at a triple crown, which I think the last person to do that was Cabrera. Yeah. And I believe he won the MVP that year. So
and before that it was like what?
It was a while, I think, before that. Yeah. It's tough because either way, and this is why I would be a big proponent of like getting rid of, and obviously like we've talked about it when we know it's not like, it's just not going to happen, but I would be a big proponent of like getting rid of the overall MVP award and giving more like specific ones, because you have two guys who are both having historic seasons. So now you have to choose like which one is more like relevant or important or meaningful, I guess. I don't know. It's just,
it's tough. And like Guerrero is obviously like undoubtedly having a better season as a hitter than Ohtani is. Yeah. Right? Like I don't even, what's Ohtani's average? Is he not like crazy, right?
I'll pull it. I'll figure it out right here.
Yeah. What I'm looking at, he's not in the top 24.
He's definitely dropped off a little bit. He was at one point, and even after the All-Star break, I think he was at one point like the MLB home run leader.
Yes.
Which is,
and he's up there, but he's he's only 2 behind.
He's hitting 256 right now. So the average isn't the greatest. But like 44 home runs, 94 RBI. Yeah. I mean, he's leading his team in home runs, RBI, stolen bases, runs, on base percentage, slugging percentage, on base plus slugging.
Yeah.
Wins, strikeouts, and innings pitched. Like, but the problem is, like,
it's
his team is 15 games out of their division.
yeah.
So,
And how legitimately good is he as a pitcher?
um,
Like
I
it,
mean, he probably would have made the All-Star game as a pit. He would have if he wasn't both. I think he would have made it as either one. Just maybe not necessarily like he might not have been the starter, but that was like a once in a
yeah.
lifetime
He,
thing probably. So
he's certainly not an MVP candidate or a Cy Young candidate, right?
I don't know, honestly. I don't think he is really. I haven't really seen his name be thrown around, but I don't know if that's more just like there's a clear favorite, which I don't know. Like I guess Garrett Cole is the consensus pick for like AL Cy Young, which I just don't. I guess maybe just the pitching hasn't been. But when I saw that, I was like, how can that be? Because he had like a terrible stretch when all the spider tack stuff came out. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That baffles me. But
I mean,
I
he
don't.
is second in ERA,
Yeah, he's
second in
having a
strikeouts,
good
first in
season.
wins. But I mean, yeah, I I can understand giving it to Ohtani because what he is doing is
Yeah,
so historic. But at the
I
same time,
think a lot of writers will probably vote for him.
I
That's
think
the
so.
thing.
It's
Regardless of, I think it's gonna be tough because either way you have a big issue.
yes,
I think like a big media issue. Like
yeah.
if Guerrero wins it, you're
If
gonna be sitting there and being like, well, how like Otani's literally doing everything he possibly can. Like he's doing more than anyone has ever done
yeah,
just by doing both consistently.
yeah.
But if Otani wins it, you say like, well,
Like Guerrero
it's hard to have a better season than what Guerrero's doing.
Guerrero is playing better,
Yeah.
is doing his job better than
Mm-hmm.
what Otani is doing. Like Guerrero has been a
Yes.
better hitter than Otani as a hitter or Otani
Right.
as a pitcher. So it's sort of it's it's like you're going for slightly less quality of play because there's like a higher quantity of
Mm-hmm.
things that he's doing, which
Right.
is and then if Guerrero does end up winning the Triple Crown, like he's behind
Yeah.
by 8 RBIs right now. If he's
Which
some
for him is not a ton. Like he could make that up.
right, and so it's just if you have a guy win the Triple Crown
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't win MVP, like
Yeah.
that would be
There's a big issue there.
insane. Like you
Yeah.
probably will never find that in history,
Right.
right? Like so it's just kind of tough for me to imagine.
It's hard. And I mean, a lot of people have said like, oh, just like it should just go by the WAR. But I don't get like, how does that work for someone like Otani? Because he's literally won 9 games as a pitcher.
Yeah.
So
Plus,
how do you compare that? Like, how do you compare a WAR of someone who's doing both? Because it's wins above replacement. So, I mean, you could say like if he's not in there as a pitcher, like they don't win that game. Like that's I feel like where it gets weird.
yeah,
It's just so hard to compare them because
yeah,
they're doing different things. Like Otani doing because if Otani's not like pitching every fifth day, like he might be having a better offensive season. You know what I mean?
yeah. But
So
that's at the end of the day, that's always going to be a what if.
right,
Like you can't
right,
prove that, and so it
yeah,
just. I think from the production, I understand why people like Manny Ramirez are saying like if Guerrero
yeah,
doesn't win this MVP, it's
yeah. It's tough because you could say it either way. I think
yeah,
like that's where it becomes a tough thing because it's like he's not wrong by saying that Guerrero would be robbed if he didn't win it, but I also think someone could say like, oh, if Otani doesn't win it, he'd be getting robbed, and I don't think they're wrong either.
yeah. It's
So
it's sort of like the 2016 dunk contest. You remember that with Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine,
yes,
where they
was
probably
that the Wade one?
no, that was the
No,
year
not
before.
that
So that
one.
was Zach
Okay,
LaVine won it. It was the first time Gordon had done it, and he did a few dunks that like he did the one where he like takes a seat above the mascot
Yeah.
And the mascot was on like he was crazy. But Zach Levine also did a windmill from the free throw line and a three between the legs dunk from like a step inside the free throw line.
Okay.
So it was literally like the two of them had the greatest like dunk contest performances ever. Basically, it just happened to be the same time. But it's just sort of, you look back on it, and no matter which way you go,
Yeah.
you can look at
Someone's
someone,
missing out. Yeah.
any other year that guy is winning.
Right.
Like if Otani did this last year, consensus MVP.
Yeah.
If he
right.
does this next year, probably consensus MVP. Right. So it's tough.
It's just tough that they're in the same
league.
year.
Yeah. Or if one of them was in the next.
Even same. Yeah. True.
But
yeah.
I don't know. Does Otani hit when he pitches?
Yeah.
He does.
He does. Which is also like he's had a couple tough starts where like he'll be pulled like early in the game, which is tough because then he's just out.
So he has to get pulled out too.
Yeah. Which is so because I was thought about that because one of the games that he did have a tough start, I was like, oh, so I think technically he could go to like right field. Like I think they could move him to a position. They would just lose the DH at that point.
Yeah. Because when he's not pitching, he's playing. He's a DH, right?
And outfield, I think.
Oh, really?
I don't know how much outfield he actually plays, just because I don't watch them. But like he does. That's his like, as his like position, like player position.
Okay.
Like when he's been unable to pitch for some, like he's had injuries where he can't pitch, but he can play the field, I think.
Interesting.
Which is strange, but like that's his outfield position. Yeah. It sounds weird to say like outfield position, but like in soccer that's what it would be, like, you know, a goal, you have the goalkeeper and then the outfield players.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I mean by that.
Yeah.
But his non-pitcher position is outfield.
Okay.
I don't know how much he actually plays
it. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not our decision to make. So
true. No, but
we can only comment on it.
The people making the decision probably won't care what we have to say, to be honest.
Nope.
They won't watch this and change, but you never know.
And who knows? And honestly, that's a whole nother issue. Like, I don't think, because it's the Writers Association that votes on a lot of this stuff. Okay. And it's kind of the same thing for hockey, but like I don't necessarily know that they're the best people to be voting. I think it should be all like coaches and GMs and stuff, people that are actually playing against these people, because no matter what, like even if your job is to, you know, write about the New York Mets, you're still probably not watching every single San Diego Padres game and seeing like the impact people have. So
100%.
I don't know. It'll probably never get changed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Is DeGrom gonna come back this year, or is he done?
I don't. He might. There's a chance, but I honestly don't think it would be worth it.
Are they making the playoffs?
I don't think they are. I don't think they're really in it anymore. So I think they should probably just let him take the rest of the year off. And
when did he get hurt?
Pretty early.
Okay.
Like I think like before the All-Star break.
Because his ERA was insane, right?
Oh yeah. There was a point where he had more RBIs than earned runs.
That's crazy.
Given up. Yeah. And that was really early, but it lasted like longer than it should have.
Yeah.
Still. Like, yeah, I mean, it was
as a pitcher, if you do that over multiple starts, it was
insane
impressive.
What he was. Yeah. It was like there was a point of time where it was like he's their most productive. It was like he was basically like not like Shohei, but it was like he's winning games for the Mets like by himself. Like they'd win like 2-1 and he'd have 2 RBI.
Yeah.
So
that's wild. It's a shame that he got hurt. But
I know he's also just someone that's so like satisfying to watch pitch. Like when they put together those reels of like his outing, you could just sit there and like watch him. It's just amazing to like watch him do what he does.
Yeah. Has he had injury problems?
I think he has in the past. I don't think it's ever been like really, really bad, but it's been like, you know, like I think he has had extended time off before.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I think Syndergaard is having issues too now, which kind of stinks for them.
Yeah.
because he was almost back, I think, and then got like re-injured.
Man, that's always
I know
tough.
you're a big Mets fan, so
Huge Mets fan, maybe. Ever since Jason Bay.
yeah. Oh my gosh, Jason Bay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all the topics we want to cover for right now. I know you gotta
Sure.
not get another call in a little while, so hopefully we'll do this maybe again in I don't know, a couple weeks, a week or two maybe.
No,
We'll try to get Casey on one of these.
Yeah, we'll do our best.
He's got to answer the text messages.
We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I know. All right. Well, this was fun.
Yeah,
Look
man.
forward to the next one.